round 5 of the 2014 FF1M Championship and a returning Grand Prix. This is Portugal, specifically the Estoril circuit, which last held an FF1M race back in the 1999 season, which was won by Jarno Trulli in the MRD. And I'm joined by Joseph Willows, the lead FF2M commentator. How are you doing?
Doing very well. Howdy, folks. Third time you'll hear my voice this week. So,
you'll have had the feature and the sprint race of FF2M.
Yeah, I think people are probably getting bored of my voice at this point.
I enjoyed your commentary a lot for the European round.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Speaking of which, we saw Sebastian Vettel take his second win in a row, and indeed the second of the season, for Shake and Bake in a fairly close race in the end. Nico Rosberg was second, not that far behind in the end, thanks to traffic.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about Alonso's race from that, to be honest.
More unreliability, weirdly enough, on Alonso's end. But at least Rosberg's leading the championship.
Yeah, that's good, but it could have been a lot more. That's just that, really.
And here's a look at the circuit. It looks to be very quick, with the slowest corner being turn 4, and using the 1993 version with no tight, offensively slow chicane.
Yeah, as you put it out before we went into the commentary, a slightly better version of Estoril.
Yeah, the best Estoril had in 93. And a quick look at the practice times. We saw Lewis Hamilton set the fastest time by some 0.4 of a second from Romain Grosjean, although on the softs, so that might have had something to do with it. And then Thomas Gonzalez, the young sensation in FF2M, set the quickest time in practice 2, although a tenth and a bit slower than Hamilton's quickest in practice 1. And just having a look, you've got 5th, and I was not in time. Anyway, here's the grid. Yeah. Here's the grid, which will see yet another pole position for Fernando Alonso. That is his 3rd of the season. Alongside Hamilton, just 15 thousandths of a second between the top two.
Very close qualifying. Nico in 4th, so top 4, round 4 for us. I'm hoping this time Alonso actually makes it to the finish and hopefully gets the win, because getting a bit desperate for him.
Yeah, he's not scored that many points, only 3 to be exact. He's 12th in the championship, tying with Kevin Magnussen.
Yeah, I just don't know what at the moment with Fernando, but
hopefully for yours and his sake, he'll get it together. And just looking a bit further down the grid, we have got Jenson Button in 11th, so back to reality. Although reality was pretty poor anyway for me.
Even though you are quite quick in a straight line, it must be said, but I think this track definitely not a power track, it must be said.
Although it has that long straight, so it might help, but yeah, I might have looked quick in a straight line in the last race for a particular reason. I was running higher engine modes.
Yep, and the Tornado last, Sebastian Buemi.
Last, although it is a very, very close grid, only 8/10 covering the whole lot, so here we go. There's Alonso in pole position, 5 lights are on, and the usual pause before the 5 lights go out, and looked as if they're a bit struggling for traction off the line, but Alonso has gotten away well. Now is Hamilton alongside? Is Vettel alongside? No, not quite, but it is Alonso side by side with Hamilton through the first corner, and just about hanging on through the second corner. This is who on earth is going to be bravest on the brakes going into turn 3. It is Alonso, just about, but Hamilton has got the lead. Now is Vettel going to do something about Alonso going through the exit of 3 into 4? Not quite, but it's Lewis Hamilton who leads as we go onto the back straight.
We saw a bit of that in FF2M as well, a lot of side-by-side action going through the first 2 turns. But yes, top 3, Hamilton, Alonso and Vettel. Rosberg keeping intact as well, but a very clean start, it must be said, unlike in the FF2M feature race.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. Poor start for Nico Hülkenberg, who was 7th and is now dropped out of the top 8. So Grosjean and Bottas have gained a place at the expense of the German.
And it looks like the 2 Germans in a minute might be fighting for 3rd place, because Rosberg, I think, is all over the back of him in a moment. I think Vettel may be starting to lose a tad bit of time to the top 2 at the moment, because there's a little bit of a gap starting to form now between Alonso and Vettel. So, be very interesting to see if that continues throughout the rest of the race, as Hamilton sets an early fastest lap of the race.
So it's Hamilton from Alonso, Vettel, Rosberg, Raikkonen, Kubica, but it's now Grosjean ahead of Kubica as they go through the first couple of corners, very fast couple of corners. Both of those on the hard tyres. What on earth is everyone else on? I think Vettel's on mediums. And let's have a look through the rest of the field. We saw a glimpse of Sergio Perez, who took an outstanding third for Exelite at the Nürburgring. Very good drive. That was probably my drive of the race, although he did get into an incident with Hamilton quite late on, which cost him second. As we all go on board with Alguersuari on the blue-ringed hard tyres, chasing Kobayashi and hacksawing away a little bit at the steering wheel, and he's got a good run coming out of that corner. And, well, I don't know what Kobayashi was doing there.
It looked like he had a little bit of understeer coming out the corner because his car looked a little bit wavy coming out of it. As Kubica goes off, this is going to be a crash, and yes it is.
That is a massive crash at turn 1, and out of the race goes Kubica, second retirement of the season. As we have a look at Daniel Ricciardo now in 9th position, chasing... Oh, he's gone off the track, and out of the race goes Daniel Ricciardo. A very strange accident. Looked like he overcorrected it.
That's a very rare accident, it must be said. So a very rookie error, it must be said, for Daniel Ricciardo, even though this is his 3rd season. Here's a replay of it. Going up the hill, let's see if he got a bit of understeer and... Oh, got a bit just at the exit there, a bit of oversteer, and then just a passenger when he caught the gravel.
That's his first retirement of the season. Had 3 point scores in a row up to that point with 7th, 8th and 6th. And now we go on board with a Pedersen chasing... That's Grosjean versus Raikkonen for 5th position as they go through turn 1. On the hards is
someone's
Grosjean.
off! Someone's off!
It's one of your guys.
Oh, it's one of my cars. Is it? It's Rosberg. It's Rosberg.
So what's happened there? Is he understeered off turn 1 and then ploughed into the barriers? That's safe to assume, but we'll definitely see a replay of that.
Well, it was an accident, I think it might have been, but that's a disaster for him considering he's leading the Drivers' Championship, and that's great news for Sebastian Vettel, and he just got some oversteer there, and he just smacked the wall there, very hard whack, and that's game over for Nico Rosberg, first retirement of the season for the German.
He was on the podium in all races up until then, with a 2nd, 1st, 3rd and 2nd, in that very order. But yeah, very unforgiving, this Estoril circuit at the moment, as we go on board with Massa, who's chasing one of the Horizons. This is for 9th position. Is that Sutil or is it De Resta? I think it's more likely to be Sutil. He qualified 12th. And there's an FJR chasing them both as well.
Yeah, there's another one behind one of the Tornadoes as well. I'm going to presume maybe it's Button, I think, that's behind this Andrew F1 that's in front of him. And it looks like, I think that's Massa actually we were looking at, as Maldonado goes around turn 1 and he's another victim. Yes, he is. Exactly
the same place as Rosberg. So turn 1 catching quite a few people out at the moment. And it's caught Maldonado out, who's having a bit of a poor season at the moment.
Well, it does drop, doesn't it? It does tend to drop, so it's very loose on the exit. As Raikkonen's made the same error as Ricciardo.
And he's out. That's a wheel gone for Raikkonen. So Kimi's tricky season continues, as that's an early pit stop for Hülkenberg. Is that an issue?
He lost his front wing, actually. I just saw it. He's got no front wing.
So what's happened to Hülkenberg? Who has he tagged? Might have been the errant wheel from Raikkonen. As he exits the pits in 7 seconds.
He's added a bit more fuel on. He's now got 32 laps worth of fuel now, so clearly a change of strategy there for the German there.
They're driving for the Mitchell team, who haven't been as impressive as I thought. Like, Cooper Lee showed some good pace. Now, here's the replay. Where is the tyre? There is the tyre, and it's gone right into the path of Hülkenberg, so that's unfortunate. I think everybody might have been running 2 stops, but I think Hülkenberg could have switched to a 3 thanks to this. Sutil versus Perez now. Sutil looking for some points for Horizon, who have been reliable-ish. Had 3 out of 4 for both Sutil and De Resta so far, but now Sutil's up to 6th position, so that's an impressive effort.
Indeed, Hamilton pitting at the end of this lap. I think the reason why Sutil got past Perez there, it looked like he got held up by Hülkenberg, who was coming into the pits there, which, as a result, because Sutil had more speed coming out of the final corner, it allowed him to get past Perez with ease.
Absolutely, yeah. We did see Perez getting delayed a little bit, But now Perez is still a second behind Suttil, so I expect that battle to rage on a little bit longer, but Massa's quite close behind as well, looking for his first points of the season as a best of 11th that was achieved at the Chinese Grand Prix. Kubica's done all the legwork for Andrew F1 so far.
So far, yes. And surprisingly enough, I'm surprised at how much Hamilton has got away from Alonso. I expected it to be a little bit more closer between those two guys, but he's actually upped it up to nearly 4 seconds. And then you've got Vettel, who's like nearly a further 2 seconds behind.
So Hamilton's Gajera working quite well in race trim at the moment. Could be a lighter fuel load that's causing that. There's a nice graphic of a race steward up on the Marshall box. Very detailed,
I think it was
actually.
Charlie Whiting, I believe.
The late Charlie Whiting. And 22 laps extra going on board the Gajera, so that should take Hamilton to lap 43. If things don't go wrong for Hamilton, he's got a good chance, but if Alonso and Vettel are running later, then it could come to play in the final stint. So Hamilton rejoins in front of Perez, so sandwiching Suttil and Perez, so now he's become a part of that battle.
Grosjean, you just saw there, just came into the pits as well for Pedersen as he continues his fight with Kimi Räikkönen, as Hamilton
Kimi's
in
out of
fifth
the race
ahead
there.
of... Is he? Oh yeah, of course he is. My brain went there.
My brain's not working at the moment either. Bottas comes into the pits.
It went to Tesco and came back.
So 5.2 second stop for the GRM driver. Bottas currently sits ahead of Raikkonen in the Drivers' Championship with 12 points. Best result of third, and 2 other points finishes as well. Vettel is going to come into the pits this lap, so run 3 laps longer than Hamilton, who sits 17.5 seconds behind race leader Alonso. Is Alonso going to follow into the pits as well? Or rather, is Alonso going to come into the pits first and then Vettel follow? Let's find out in a bit. Another lap for Alonso at least. So Vettel into the pits for the one remaining shake and bake in this race.
It looked like he had one more lap of fuel compared to Hamilton before he pitted as well. So very interesting tactics maybe going on at shake and bake.
So as he noticed the pace of the new tyres and is reacting to that. Not taking on as much fuel as Hamilton, but let's see, that he could be pitting on the same lap if that's the case, as he rejoins ahead of Kevin Magnussen, who currently sits 5th at the moment, but having yet to stop. So it's a slightly better showing for FJR so far, as into the pits comes Alonso, 1 lap later than Vettel.
Let's see if he can stay ahead. I don't expect him to be close to Hamilton, because it looked like Hamilton was about 16 seconds, that said, on the graphic, unless that was the guy in second place at the time. Anyway, change of tyres, a bit more fuel on the car, and it is a 6.9 second stop, so same time as Vettel. And I think he's carrying around the same number of laps as what Vettel is as well, and he comes out still in front of Vettel, so no changes there.
So the top 3 after the first round of stops so far are Hamilton, Alonso, Vettel. It looks like Grosjean is running 4th position, so that's a good drive so far. He currently sits 4th in the championship. Hasn't scored a podium finish yet, but the way he's been going, I wouldn't bet against it.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that as we look at the gap now between Hamilton and Alonso, and it's down to 5.2 seconds. So Alonso, clearly with fresher tyres than Hamilton, starting to close up onto the Brit.
And fresher tyres compared to, let's say, a lighter fuel load, but I reckon they are coming in on the same lap for the second stops. We'll find out soon. Let's see what the gap is as they go through Sector 2. Still 5.2 at the moment, and there's Vettel still lurking behind, and it's 5.084. So at the moment, Alonso is between 3 and 4 tenths quicker on this lap.
And looks like he's taking 2 temps out every sector. Let's see if he continues that into the final sector, just coming out of Parabolica, this is ironically called. I'm surprised that the Italians have not sued Portugal over that corner, but yeah, another 2 temps he's taken out of him on that sector. So
6 tenths quicker on that particular lap, and also technically Estoril should have sued Magny-Cours for nicking their corner names on one of the circuits, or one of the corners.
Which corner would that be?
That would be Estoril corner in Magny-Cours. Magny-Cours nicked a few others as well, as I should really be looking at this battle between Button and Suttil for 7th position, and Button is up to 7th. Still hasn't scored any points yet and currently sits 19th in the championship.
Double lock-up for Suttil there in the background, as he's got, I believe this is, it will be Perez, because Raikkonen is out of the race, nearly forgot again. As Perez now having a go at I think it's Suttil, isn't it?
It is Suttil, yes. So
yeah.
Suttil
I nearly lost the name there.
And there's a tornado coming up to these 3 as well. It must be Verne. Now what's going to happen with Jenson Button? This looks ominous.
Yeah, I think we know where this is going. Yep.
Right. And that's yet another non-score for Button. Oh, Verne.
Oh. Yeah, I just saw that there. The tyre just clipped Verne there, and it just speared him off onto the track.
That was bizarre, wasn't it? So Verne lost a few positions to must have been the other Horizon of Di Resta, and got bump started by Magnussen. Well, let me just process what has happened there. Jensen is out of the race as Perez takes 7th back off of Suttil, going through the first corner. Next target is Nico Hulkenberg, who is probably 3 stopping now, as Magnussen, that's on Massa, so it was Massa that got ahead of Verne, and now has Verne got back ahead? What's going on? I'm not really sure what's going on at the race at this moment, as we have a look at Alonso versus Hamilton. This is a battle for the lead now.
Yeah, it's coming down. It's 1.5 seconds last time around, down to 1.4. Both of them taking a very deep line, it must be said, going into turn 3. So probably both of them basically copying off each other at this point.
Yeah, it's that seems to be the normal line for turn 3 in the old F1 days, because to try and brake as late as possible and then get a late apex. That seemed to be the way to go through turn 3.
Yeah, I think you can probably take a couple of different lines through there, to be honest with you, given the profile of that corner, as Alonso's getting a little bit, don't you dare, Fernando.
Oh,
for God's
dearie
sake.
me. Well, that's Fernando Alonso out of the race, and both Willows out. Goodness me. Just as we were looking forward to a lead battle between those two as well, I'm disappointed as well.
Damn it. Well... I don't know what to say anymore.
Meanwhile, we've got Buemi versus Sainz. That's going through turn 1, as Buemi takes 13th position off of the Spaniard. And is this going to be another position, or is this Verne versus Suttil? It's Verne versus Suttil. Is there going to be a 3-way battle between these 3? Because Hulkenberg's not that far in front. Verne takes 7th, so Tornado's race at the moment is looking quite a bit better than their season is going so far.
Absolutely, it's Verne currently in 7th, and now he's on the back of Hulkenberg now, so it looks like another position could be taken for the French driver.
He's flying on this set of tyres.
Indeed, as he now goes down towards turn 1, and that's P6 for the Frenchman.
Now Hulkenberg might be coming under pressure from Suttil. Hulkenberg's tyres must be getting a bit old now. He could still be 2 stopping, actually. There's Magnussen lurking up as well. Is Magnussen going to get some points? I doubt it.
Well, he's still sticking with them, so give him a chance.
I will, actually. He is the only point scorer for FJR so far. As Suttil puts Hulkenberg under pressure, this is German on German. And Magnussen lurks behind in the battle for 7th now, because Verne is positively pulling away for Tornado. That'll please Tobias.
It will indeed, as now here comes Suttil on the inside of his fellow compatriot, and this should be a simple pass for the Horizon, and it is P7 for Adrian Suttil.
Now, can Suttil do something about Verne, and is Magnussen going to do something about Hulkenberg? We may find out shortly as they go through turn 3. Meanwhile, Hamilton is only 0.8 of a second ahead of Vettel at this moment, and similarly, or even tighter than that, Grosjean is only 0.4 ahead of Bottas, so we've got some good battles going on. And is there going to be another one between Magnussen and, that's the wrong line, Sonny, going through the Parabolica Interior, as that corner is called, and the outside line is definitely not the way to go. Now then, here's Vettel, and there is Lewis Hamilton. It's just half a second now.
let's keep our hopes up that this is actually a battle for the lead.
Well, it's certainly closer than Hamilton and Alonso were so far, and with these two first and second and Rosberg out, one of these two could well lead the championship by the end of this race. If it stays as it is...
I think Vettel will lead it, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, if it stays as it is, it will be Hamilton who will be leading the championship.
Oh.
Because he's only 2 points behind Vettel so far.
Very bizarre, considering that Vettel's won the last 2 races, and it could be 3 in a row if he can get by on Hamilton.
Absolutely, and I suppose the reason Hamilton is closer to Vettel, despite only having 1 win, is because Hamilton has finished in the top 4 in every race so far. So Hamilton being Mr. Consistent this season so far. Now, has Vettel got enough of a slipstream going into turn 1? Not quite. But it is 0.3 of a second as they start, lap 45 or 44. One of the two, I get confused sometimes. I think they're on lap 45 now.
I think we're on lap 44 because I think the lap counter says 44 at the top. So,
roger that.
I think it. Yeah.
And Grosjean maintaining a half a second buffer over Valtteri Bottas. I think whoever pits first out of those two will surely be on the podium, because as usual, the new tyres make more of a factor than a low fuel. Hulkenberg into pits. I just saw Magnussen brief loop in 8th, so that must mean that Hulkenberg is in the pits for his second stop. So more on schedule compared to his first one.
Indeed, and Vettel is a lot more closer to Hamilton than what he has been, so surely this will give him a perfect chance to try and get him into turn 1 this time around.
As we go through the Parabolica with some lovely conifer trees on the left, and then fans on the left as well. Here's the slipstream, coming into turn 1. Vettel only 10th behind on the line, but the gap is irrelevant because now Vettel takes the lead of the race.
Fantastic stuff, and it looks like he could, if he's able to build up a gap, could make it 3 wins in a row. When was the last time somebody won 3 in a row in FF1M?
The last time somebody won 3 in a row, I will check that for you. It could have been the 2011 season. I think Hamilton won at least 4 in a row, possibly more. It definitely wasn't 3 in a row last season. And
I don't believe there was one in 2012 either.
Not in 2012, but Hamilton was off the back of a 4-5 race winning streak in 2011. But not
as
only on the
Hulkenberg's going straight on.
Oh,
Hulkenberg's going straight on. That's another crash down at that corner as Grosjean is coming into the pits. He's currently 3rd at the minute.
He's 3rd.
He's doing a good job.
Both also joined into by the Bottas. Pits. Exciting pit race coming up.
Right, here we go. Battle of the mechanics. Now, looking at, as confirmation Hulkenberg is out, looking at where GRM is positioned, I think they're going to get an advantage, because how GP4 usually works is whoever is in the first garage usually gets out in front because of this system where the driver usually gets held up. And the same applies here because Bottas has just jumped Grosjean.
Very well telegraphed there, Joseph, as Bottas, once all the pit stops, there's a blown. Oh, it's Magnussen who's blown another engine for Judd in the FJR. So, both FJRs failing to finish. That's not going to do my development any good.
I probably should have listened to you, as there's a fire now on the back of the FJR. I should have probably listened to you and said probably no hope of you getting points.
Well, I am once again running a higher engine mode for this one. Not quite as high as the Nürburgring, but a higher engine mode nonetheless.
Yeah, Perez now comes into the pits for the Exolite team, and confirmation that Perez is out with an engine failure. As let's see where Perez, as Perez rejoins from his 5.2 second stop. Suttil comes into the pits for Horizon, as there is mechanics, matching mechanics, I should point out, because not a lot of them are usually matching in this. As Buemi gets up to 7th on Alguersuari there.
Yeah, where's Buemi come from? That's been impressive to get up to 7th at this stage. I suspect he has got another stop to make. Perez versus Massa for 5th position, and 5th position for the Mexican. Now then, we've got Vettel 2.5 seconds in the lead. Is Grosjean going through the first corner? Going through the second corner. No problems so far. Oh, he's pulling off. It's a mechanical problem. That is a loose wheel. You can see that front right askew.
might be a suspension failure actually on the front right, because it's lifting up at an angle. So either way, it is a failure of some description, and he's pulled out quite a bit dangerously on the track there, luckily just off the racing line, but a bit of a weird parking there for the Frenchman.
Yeah, he went off the track and then back on it again. That's very strange from the Frenchman. It's suspension.
So I was correct on that one, as Vettel will be pitting at the end of this lap.
Yes, and he's pulled out 2.5 seconds over Hamilton, who now has got... what on earth happened there? I think it froze briefly, but we're back up and running. Just to answer a question that you asked previously, the last time somebody won 3 in a row was indeed Lewis Hamilton. He'd won 5, the final 5 races at the back end of the 2011 season.
And surprisingly enough, he didn't win the title that season.
He didn't. I remember his reliability was very poor in that early part of the season. But it did help Pedersen win the Constructors' Championship, their last Constructors to date.
What a difference it makes now when you look at 2014 and their performances. In fact, the last couple of seasons for Pedersen.
2013 was a bit of a disaster for the Danish team, but they're definitely looking stronger, particularly with Grosjean at the wheel. Vettel and Hamilton did pit at the same time, so no advantage of fresh tyres for Hamilton on this occasion.
Well, very quick stop for Hamilton, it must have said. 4.9 seconds. Now, Perez, is he going to make the same mistake as his teammate? No, he isn't. He actually got through that corner. But
he hasn't gone through this corner.
This one.
Oh, he survived that one.
Very lucky indeed, and he should still keep 4th position, and he does.
He does. He's got 5.7 seconds over Jean-Eric Vergne. As we look at Alguersuari versus Sainz, that's for 10th position, and a lot of chattering going on for Sainz's vehicle, but Sainz hangs on to the position.
At this point in time, yes, so this battle still rages on, and now it's continuing on down this straight. Will Alguersuari get Sainz this time by as they make their way down the pit straight?
Looks closer this time as we go on board with it's Spaniard versus Spaniard, but the Mitchell driver looks as if he's going to take 10th. Indeed he does. So there may still be hope for a point yet, depending on how the rest of him in front get on, as Vettel is actually behind Alguersuari as he starts his final lap. Hamilton 1.7 seconds behind, but Vettel has got a Spaniard in between himself and Lewis Hamilton. So as we're rounding the first couple of corners, getting onto the curb there, how far back is Bottas compared to these two? Is about, I'm going to guess, 25 seconds. As Vettel goes through the slowest corner on the circuit, turn 4. 24 seconds is Bottas behind Vettel.
It looks like it's going to be another podium for Bottas at this rate. GRM actually having a very good year, it must be said. Yeah,
the cars proved to be quite good. Sainz has finished every race, as has Bottas, so a very reliable car that GRM has produced.
As Vettel makes his way out of the final few corners now then, and it looks like it will be 3 in a row for the German.
Absolutely, and into the S's goes Vettel, and just one more corner to go with a Parabolica, and it's a long corner, but Vettel looks as if he's got it under control, and out of the final corner to win the Portuguese Grand Prix. That is 3 in a row for Sebastian Vettel in the Shake and Bake Megatron. Lewis Hamilton will come home second, and we wait quite a few seconds before Valtteri Bottas will surely get his second podium of the season, and indeed GRM's second of the season. Confirmation of that very statement. So Vettel from Hamilton and Bottas, and Sergio Perez takes another good result, 4th position for himself. Vergne, points for Tornado, very useful stack of points for the stricken team, so that'll please Toby, I think. And I
think it will, considering he's been a bit frustrated recently.
Understandably. And first points of the season for Horizon as well. That's a very impressive 6th for Sutil. And Kobayashi and Massa also get points, their first of the season as well. Only 12 cars finish, high attrition rate.
I was going to say only 12 finishes. I think that's the lowest we've had this season, if I'm not mistaken.
So the Estoril circuit proving very punishing, indeed, for both of our cars. Magnussen, Button, Rosberg and Alonso all failing to finish.
Hamilton with the fastest lap, a 1 minute 10.152. So for once it's not Fernando setting the fastest lap, making me more depressed.
That'll be Hamilton's second fastest lap of the season, but it is Vettel's third win of the season. And I'm going to look at some more of the retirements there, and just trying to see. It does appear that I have got a fairly quick car in race trim, but I just can't finish. Button, that was his own fault, and Magnussen, his engine blew up, so I can't really blame Kev for that.
Absolutely. As here is the Drivers' Championship, and Vettel leads by 6 points.
6 points, that's a very useful buffer for himself over Lewis Hamilton. And Rosberg, although 10 points behind now, I still think he's within championship contention. Bottas now strengthens he moves up to 4th position at the expense of Grosjean, who suffered that suspension failure. And Perez moves up to 5th, so ahead of his teammates, interestingly enough.
Alonso down in 13th. I mean, can't get any worse, can it?
So we've got Shake and Bake leading the constructors now from Gajira, who move up to 2nd, thanks to their double points score. Willows sit 3rd on 37 points, so that's no change compared to the last race, but now they drop down to 3rd. So hopefully for your sake that Alonso will get some reliability.
And hopefully keep the car on the track as well at the same time, unlike what Rosberg did today. So yeah, I mean, we sit about 14 points ahead of Exelite at this point in time, our fellow Ilmore power people.
And all teams have now scored points.
Absolutely.
And that was the Portuguese Grand Prix. Next up, we will be returning to the tight and twisty streets of the French Principality of Monaco. So stay tuned and see you soon.